This past Sunday, we wrapped up the sermon series, Who Has the Time? A very practical series evaluating some of the most mundane and yet important factors of our lives throughout the month of March. The sermon title this past Sunday was Time's Up. Studied Acts chapter 13. And really, the point was that we need to live with intentionality and a sense of urgency. We don't know whether we're talking about our ministry or our lives as a whole. We don't know how much time we've got left. So it's important for us to redeem the time and to invest, not waste, not just spend what God has given to us. So Russ, help us dig a little deeper along these lines.
Well, I was thinking, as you mentioned, we closed up this series now, Who Has the Time? And I really felt it would be appropriate to take a look at the subjects of God's timing and his providence. We talk about our time being up, being the right time to do things, but above all, God's timing is what we really need to focus on, having patience with his timing. And if we look at a couple of examples from the scriptures, if we look in the book of Genesis, chapter 18, verse 14, the Lord said to Abraham, "Is anything too hard for the Lord? At the time appointed, I will return to you according to the time of life, and Sarah will have a son." So the Lord promised a son and an heir to Abraham, which would be required to fulfill the promise of making him into a great nation. The Lord also referred to an appointed time for delivering this promise. And you might ask, why? Now, why not provide the promise right then and there? Well, one thing the delay achieved was to test Abraham and Sarah's faith. They tried to hurry up the promise by resorting to human means to give Abraham a son. And what did this result in? This resulted in the birth of Ishmael, who God did not intend to be Abraham's heir. And even more historically, the result of Ishmael was obviously the result of Abraham and Sarah's impatience, but the ultimate result was the Arabic nations. And that resulted in the creation of the Islamic faith. In Ecclesiastes 3:1, and you have this in the video at the beginning of your series this month, it says, "To everything there's a season and a time to every purpose under the heaven." And again, if we look at Proverbs 16, verse 33, it says this, "The lot's cast into the lap, but the whole disposing thereof is of the Lord." These verses really point to God's providence, the fact that he is in control and works situations and their timing for his divine purpose. This is even true in events which are perceived by us, or maybe perceived by us as random, like rolling a die or casting lots. But we should remember the apostles in the book of Acts, they prayed and casted lots to decide who would replace Judas Iscariot, confident that the Lord was in control of the result. Again, God's providence. If we look at the book of Habakkuk, chapter 2, verse 3, it says this, "For the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it will speak and not lie. Though it tarries, wait for it, because it will surely come. It will not tarry." Lord makes it clear that his revelation to Habakkuk, which was of the invasion of Israel by the Babylonians, would take place, but that there was an appointed time and purpose for it. So what can we summarize from these verses? What can we learn from all this? Faith requires that we believe the Lord's promises and trust in his timing. That is faith. Abraham and Sarah, they lacked sufficient faith in God's promise of a son and heir. If they hadn't, they wouldn't have taken matters into their own hands and caused the significant historical consequences that they did. God's plan and timing are both essential components of his providence, both what he has decreed is going to happen and when he decrees it's going to happen. Can sum this up in two of the Psalms, two verses in Psalms. The first one is Psalm 130, verse 5. David said, "I wait for the Lord, my soul doth wait, and in his word do I hope." Correct myself, we don't know that was a Psalm of David. It doesn't actually say that. And in Psalm 27:14, David did say, Wait on the Lord, be of good courage, and he will strengthen your heart. Wait, I say, on the Lord. There's a lot of emphasis there on wait and the Lord's timing, not your own. Trust in his providence, trust in his being in control. True faith and patience in our spiritual life is a key to the Lord's peace that passes all understanding. So for our Grace Group verses, I wanted to look at the book of Daniel, chapter 2, verses 19 to 23. In these verses, Daniel praises God for his timing and wisdom. And there's 5 questions to answer as always. How would you explain these verses in your own words? What do they tell us about God? What do they tell us about people? How can you apply these words to life? And who are you going to tell about these verses?
Amen. As for God, his ways are perfect. So thankful we can trust him. Sovereign over all. Thank you, Russ.